All right, it is 9 o'clock. I will call the regular business meeting of the Klickitat County Board of Commissioners to order. Let the record show that all three commissioners are present, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda with one add-on under miscellaneous reports, Greg Gallagher for the Treasurer, Finance and Steering Committee update.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the business agenda with one add-on. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, we have before us the commissioner meeting minutes from October 24th, 2023. My motion is to approve them as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from October 24th, 2023. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval say aye.
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 I had all three there. Perfect, thank you. And next item is citizen comment. If any citizens out there want to comment on anything, please give us your name and general location in the county. For the record, there will be a clock on the screen if you can see it, that for your 3 minutes. Please keep your comments pertinent to county business or things happening inside the county. And with that, we'll start in the room. We do have one person in the room to see if they have comment.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Christopher. Dave Board of Goldendale. I came here today, I actually didn't come intending to speak originally, but I want to thank the county commissioners for their role in starting and finishing the Sadis Pass repeater site, which is basically done and up and running. As you know, I'm a Rural 7 commissioner, and that area is very important in our service. Box Canyon particularly has a lot of residents. Highway 97, as you know, gets used more and more every year. I believe the whole project started in maybe about halfway through 2022. And thanks to the leadership, particularly of Jeff King, and I'm sure his assistant Debbie Stover, and I know Jeff Hunter did a bunch of work on it, and I know Rick Millerin did. I remember when bids came back, and I think that was after the boards had changed. They were much higher than even we forecast, but you went ahead and did it. And that's a success, and we have better communication, and it's a bonus for public safety. So thank you for your role in getting that done.
Thank you, sir. And just because I don't figure you're going to stick around for a half an hour, I want to throw a response back at you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very happy that came on board when I first started, and was telling fire chiefs from different areas that I wanted to push that project through. They said, yeah, right. It's not been done. It hasn't been done. We keep getting told by the commissioners that it's going to get done, and they never fund it, and give me a chance. And the first budget that me and Commissioner Anderson sat through, we funded it for the next year. So I do want to thank Commissioner Anderson for that as well, because I believe that is a vital health and safety project. If we ever do have a fire or something out there, it's going to save lives. So yeah, I'm glad it happened, and I thank Commissioner Anderson for his vote in helping make that happen. So thank you, sir. Anybody online have citizen comment for the Board of Commissioners today?
Yes, Gabrielle Gilbert.
Go ahead.
So I want to speak about the article about flock and the idea that the sheriff department and the undersheriff thought that the Columbia High School and that county road would be an ideal spot. This is the commentary that I made about vulnerable populations. And the reality is that you have young people who are learning to drive, but don't have the right to vote yet. So they don't have a voice and who governs them. And when you place cameras in that specific area by the high school, you are looking at the potential of ensnaring young people into that web. And this is young people who you will pipeline into a system, a judicial system that costs hundreds to thousands of dollars or months of their time. And I feel that that county road has been used by the surrounding residents to go to school, go to work, go shopping, come back home. And I have walked that road for almost every day for 17 years. And I feel that when we speak about vulnerable populations, we need to consider that a flock camera is not necessary for policing our school system. I also feel that there are, when you're addressing flock, you have been addressing communities who are much more amenable to this idea of surveillance, and therefore put those cameras in those communities that are tripping over themselves to get it. White salmon is not, and we are definitely going to stand up for students and advocate for them, because that's the vulnerable population. The other thing is you can invest in infrastructure. One of the things that came through in the calls to law enforcement just in the month of October is the lion's share of calls were mental health calls, and that lion's share of mental health calls were from people 19 and below. And I'm asking you to invest in those kinds of infrastructures, in youth programs, in mental health programs, and start elevating that population as opposed to surveillance. I think it's important for these discussions about how this is invasive in our communities when you start taking pictures of our license plates. And I think that in an area such as where the high school is, we have more than shown over the decades that reasonable people drive that road, and we don't require surveillance. So I thank you for your time, and happy Halloween. I dressed up as an advocate today. So I appreciate the time you gave me. All right, bye.
Thank you, Gabby. Anybody else online have citizen comment for us today? Seeing none, and our attendance is still 36. Oh, the people, go ahead, the people.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Sherry in Houston. I was reading over some paperwork regarding the regional fire authority that's on the ballot. And I came across some concerning, which is confusing. Of course, government, I guess, is completely confusing. But in some paperwork, when it describes fire protection districts' legal status and purpose, it said fire district or fire protection districts are municipal corporations authorized by enactment Title 52, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fire protection districts are defined by RCW 52.112.0 as political subdivisions of the state. And let's catch that word, and as municipal corporations. The statute establishes two distinct principles. First, a fire protection district is not a subdivision of a county, but rather the state. So why I don't even know why they pretend like they're Klickitat County on anything, because they're not under the county. The county in which a fire protection district is not have general jurisdiction and control over fire protection districts unless specifically provided by statute. Second, as a municipal corporation, a fire protection district is a separate legal entity that has the perpetual existence, specific powers, obligations, and responsibilities for its actions, and exists independent of the Board of Commissioners and any person and any group of persons. So I have a question to my commissioners, since I believe you're the top three people of this county. And if you could possibly explain to me, how does a fire protection district become two legal entities? They have the power to tax us. So maybe that's the political subdivision, how they get our money. they also become a legal entity that's in a municipal corporation that has nothing to do with that political subdivision. They're separate entities. We have one entity that has become two. I would like that explained to me by my government, because it also goes on to say how they are administration. They're only administration. And Klickitat County, you guys, I found out, and it's in your own paperwork, you're a municipal corporation. And if you're a corporation, are we the shareholders because we invest in you? And if so, maybe we need to start talking about some of these investments. The landfill's not going so well. I don't see renewable energies ever bringing anything but hurting the people. So anyway, if you could explain to me how one entity becomes two legal entities, that would be really great, because I'm really confused how this happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Oh, you had the timing right on that one. Any other citizen comment out there online? Unmute yourself or raise your hand. I'm not seeing any. Going once. Going twice. Last call for anybody out there that wants citizen comment today that hasn't had a chance to do so. Yep, that was on and off. Dawn, did you have comment? You unmuted and then muted again. So I want to make sure I get you if you want it. Hearing nothing. All right, we'll go last call one more time. So I guess the last one was not quite the last one. It is now. All right, with that, we'll close citizen comment and open it for any board members that would like to respond.
Do you want to give it a crack first?
Sure. Okay, Mr. Barta, thank you so much for your kind words and pointing out getting SATUS Pass finished. We, the county, have spent a lot of money on radio towers over the last decade and a half, and it feels really good to have the last one built. It really, and thank you so much for your kind words about Jeff King, Debbie Stover, Jeff Hunter, Rick Miller, and as well as our the rest of all of our staff and electeds who made this happen. This is a big deal. Gabby, thank you so much for your words as well. About both your feelings on the cameras, but more importantly, mental health. Mental health with our youth, we have seen a huge uptick. I think that, you know, we are seeing, we have people working in the schools now. Our reach is growing. We've brought on Tyrone. Our behavioral health program is expanding. Our crisis services are doing great. And hopefully very, very soon we will be able to provide outpatient treatment services. What is happening in the jail is absolutely amazing. We have something on the consent agenda today that we will continue providing these services for those most in need. And working with the schools, we had a meeting last week that had, I think, almost 30 people that were online or in person that toured our new behavioral health office. This is probably the biggest positive impact that we have had, at least in my tenure. Mental health and these improvements really make a big deal in our community and to the families that are experiencing this. So thank you. And thank you all, as always, for dressing up as an advocate every day. Sherry, thank you for a little bit of the civics discussion. You are absolutely 100% correct. Regional fire districts are not underneath the Board of Klickitat County Commissioners. They do not require a vote of the board in order to create them. That is why they are a subdivision of state government. We, as well, Klickitat County, the municipal corporation, is a subdivision of state government itself. That is why you see that the fire fire commissioners are publicly elected and they represent the people and that fire commission. While it can be a little confusing as to are they two separate entities or one entity, I think what it is explaining is that it is a municipal corporation, just like all cities, towns, counties, school districts, they are all municipal corporations. That means, they go through the audit and everything else, but they are a subdivision of state government, not a county government. That means that we have no control over them. I know people like to think that we have all the authority to fix everything, but I cannot go into a school and direct them or tell them what to do. Same way as I can't do that for any fire district or fire authority. That is the difference. And that is why it is clearly delineated that we are not over top of the fire authority. And with that, I can yield back my time.
Always good to hear from you, Gabby. And I don't think you ever take your advocate suit off. So, but thank you for bringing it up. I think your comments are timely. Those are conversations that are ongoing with the flock cameras. And it's good to hear from opinions from other corners of the county so that we have everybody's voice when we make our considerations. So I always appreciate you speaking up. And Mr. Barta, thank you, as always, for bringing up the good things that happen within our county. And you're right, it's a very positive thing that people work very hard on for several years, and it's a really great asset. And I think they did some testing yesterday, and they were very pleased on their coverage areas, and everything worked as they had expected. So even above and beyond. So I'm pleased there was no hitches. Sherry, yeah, that's the municipal corporations are a tough subject. They don't work like you would think corporations work that you hear about on the stock market or different places. That's going to be a long journey and a big learning curve to dig into that. Mr. Anderson did a very good oversight of what our relationship is with them. And there are many municipal corporations within the county. A lot of the reason they're set up the way they are with the state is to manage the money and for the oversight and the direction and where the money flows and for audit businesses. And so it's just a name, but it's a stopgate so that things are run correctly and there's proper oversight. Nothing backdoor or devious about it. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And then I already responded to Mr. Barta. Gabby, thank you for your opinions on the flock camera. They echo a lot of opinions that we've already heard. And eventually I would think that this board is going to hear an ask from the sheriff's office. And when we do, I'm sure each commissioner will take in the comments made by the citizenry into their decision. I know at least I will, and your comment will be one of them. Now, one thing I do want to point out, we heard 3 comments today from 3 individuals, and 2 of those comments are about things that I think this county has really succeeded in the last 2.5 years. One of them was the radio tower, and the other one is this county's investment in mental health. I believe when I first ran for office 2.5 years ago and Commissioner Anderson ran for office, we both believed that we had a mental health problem and a mental health crisis in this county. And we both wanted to do something about it. And I think you've seen at least the beginnings of what we can do about it if you have elected officials that want to. So here I am again, thanking Commissioner Anderson for his vote on mental health and Commissioner Zoller, who's now I think actively involved and actively willing participant in that process. And hopefully we go on to bigger and better things from there. Sherry, excuse me. My seatmates kind of hit the nail on the head. I think what you're going to find is all of what we refer to as junior taxing districts, all those other entities in our county that are not ran by the county commissioners, whether that's hospital districts, fire districts, cemetery districts. Can't say that with EMS, but all the other districts, including the cities, are all going to be under jurisdiction of the state, not the county. And they're all going to be set up as municipal corporations to be able to funnel the money and handle the money that they receive in their taxes. So I think they hit the nail on the head with that, and I won't beat the dead horse and repeat what they said, because I agree with both of them. With that, that's all I have. So we will move on. Commissioner Anderson, we do have 10 minutes if you want to talk about SEPA stuff.
Yes, thank you for squeezing this in there. I just wanted to continue the discussion on where we're going with Lori Anderson, as well as, you know, the interim director position, so that we can start processing these short plats and boundary line adjustments that we deal with all the time. And so I just wanted to make sure that I heard from the prosecuting attorney that an interim planning director position name would actually suffice. And I know that Commissioner Zoller was going to have that conversation. So I just want to make sure that we are moving forward, at least with a verbal to move forward, so that we can get this rolling. I know we would probably want a resolution for next week, but I think a verbal today would at least get us started.
Thank you, sir. Have our HR manager at the mic. Short plat, boundary line adjustments, and what else did you put in that resolution? Do you remember?
I think those are the only two things. It was very narrow.
Okay.
Flood certification.
Did we put
You
flood,
added that. She added flood certification.
flood certification?
Those are very, very narrow.
That's
Now,
good enough.
since I'm not a planner, have no desire to be, I don't know if the SEPA has to go along with like, I don't, boundary lines, I don't think there's ever a SEPA issue, but on short plats, there may be. So if you wanted to expand the scope, I think the issue before you, and I could be wrong, is to get through the next month. And then the assessor's office closes down. Well, they don't close down, but they roll the tax rolls, whatever they do.
They freeze the.
Freeze, there you go. So it's trying to get through the next month. And there's the bigger issue of projects like Bluebird. And how do you get a consulting firm potentially to be the interim director or director? How do you fix that, or do you fix that? But I think the short-term one's a much narrower.
I am fine myself with a resolution for short plats, boundary line adjustments, and flood certifications. If the board is in agreement of that, we can see a resolution next week and get that signed.
And what about SEPAs? Would
Well,
they go
that's
along
the
with
SEPA
the
for
short-
those three, yeah.
So we'll add.
But it
Add some language for those three.
would it make sense to enlarge that just a little bit, to say that that with the help of outside consultants with experience, that she could be the SEPA responsible official as well for larger projects, so that we don't have to come back and write another resolution?
I myself would have to be a no vote on that, because I think we would, I think the county would get appealed on the bigger projects. And I think based on the testimony of the employee right here last week that said she wasn't qualified, I think there could open up litigation, because not only is she not qualified, but nowhere in our code does it allow us to have an outside consultant working on SEPAs.
And I agree, and we'll have it. I think our concern right now is don't get a backlog, take care of what we've got on the table, keep it simple. Lori's available and willing, and then we'll have that 2-month break that we can look for that intern person.
Yeah, I
Or
think,
just what we're going to
I
do.
think for the big projects, this board is either gonna have a hired qualified professional so that we don't get sued on the big projects. And or this board is going to have to change the code to allow a consulting firm to be the SEPA official on the big projects and do the big projects and keep us from being litigated. I would so choose that we quickly work on changing the wordage, because I don't really want to wait and see if there's a planning director coming in 2 months or 2 years.
And that was my understanding with the prosecutor. It was qualifications for the bigger ones are important.
Mhm.
And if not speaking for Ms. Anderson, she'll be here pretty soon, is I'm not sure she was comfortable with those bigger projects. I
Right.
think she stated that last week in
And
various
that's,
ways.
my other worry about that would be, it would be one heck of a workload you're now shifting on top of. The small projects, not much workload, big project, a lot of workload.
And before you proceed, I want to make sure everybody understands I misspoke. The assessor's office is not closed. They're just freezing. So Billy's listening. I don't want her to think I'm telling her, but they're closed for a month.
So I think you have your consensus. All three of us, I think, agree on the short plats, battery line and floodplain certification, SEPA.
So she has
official.
verbal to start signing those documents.
Yep.
Okay.
And whatever do we need to do anything officially for in term, or is a verbal title good enough?
Well, the resolution was to name
Okay, good
our
enough.
in term for the specific ABCD.
Got it. Perfect.
So
I do think I would like the board, whether it's today or another day when we have time, since we may not have time today to fully discuss it, but I don't want to kick the can down the road on the big projects.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what we're doing. If that's consultant firm, fine, it's consultant firm, which consultant firm, and let's get to the wordage change on the code to change it to as the BoCC's appropriate or whatever, so that this problem's fixed next time and the BoC can just move.
we may want to
without
bring that
waiting.
up.
Is it public comment?
No, this is a board meeting, ma'am.
So maybe we can talk to Lori when she's here at 10:30 about, because I'm planning to have to draft that code change, I'm assuming. Or I don't know how we go about that.
Well, the question would be, and when I put in for my legal opinion, they said, yes, you can, but we need to, and I asked them for if they can help us with wordage, and their answer essentially in a nutshell was yes, but we need to know what direction you're going so that we can word it correctly.
Okay.
So if this board chooses whatever, if they want to go outside consulting firm or whatever, then we can tell them, and I think they would be more than happy to help us move forward as a county and draft that language and get that code changed.
Okay.
But
And
we
I
need
think
to have the discussion here to make sure we have consensus to go there.
Correct. Do we have a workshop coming up this month? No, because of WASAC probably. We'll have to find some time.
Yeah, like I said, if we can't sneak it on today's schedule, let's put it on next week's schedule to discuss big project SEPA and come to a conclusion so we can get that thing working on and
And
get
to
it.
clarify, I think the resolution, I think we put it interim planning director for the sole purpose of
There you
those
go.
things stated. So it's very, very narrow.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything
I have,
else?
I have no problem with you guys adding that to next week's agenda. I'll be in DC. So I won't be able to be on. So, but you guys, I have full faith that you guys can get through it.
Oh, interesting. If you're not gonna be here for that one, maybe we just sneak it in this afternoon then. And not wait. At least have some discussions this afternoon. Okay. Interesting. Okay. We might slot that in today somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, sir. Not gonna be here next week. Okay. Any other issues on the SEPA before we move on? Hearing none. We're gonna start at 2 minutes early. We have 9:30 scheduled for old business. Senior Service Director Sharon Collar follow-up discussion from October 17th at the Board of County Commissioners meeting. I believe the board asked her to get some information.
Dan, Elise has a question. Do you want to?
Yeah, he did it out of order. He did consent before, or no, we didn't do consent
did it.
agenda. Sorry,
We
you're
did the
good.
meeting minutes.
All right, we'll do consent agenda. You're right. I'm wrong.
Sharon.
I apologize. Anybody want to make a motion on the consent?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with 11 items.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, staff, for pointing that out. To the one listener that thought it was citizen comment. Citizen comment starts at 9 in the morning and we take citizen comment until nobody comments anymore. And then when nobody comments anymore, then we move on with our regular business agenda. So it's not scheduled for a half an hour or an hour or whatever else. I would say be on at 9 and we take comments. Sometimes that goes to 9:30, sometimes it goes to 9:10, depending on how many people have comment. So I just wanted to let them know that.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $1,623,475.12 and payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $1,134,786.53 for the date ending October 30th, 2023.
I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion? I'll throw out a quick one and say I did look through the bills again this morning, which I take as my job. And I found absolutely nothing to throw red flags. Unlike when we started, there was quite a few things that flew red flags. Now I don't catch anything hardly ever. So good job, everybody in the county, for managing the people's money wisely. With that, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion on that? No? All right, all those in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, we have before us the approval of pay estimate number 2 for the Klickitat County Jail re-roofing project. Olympic Roofing was the lowest responsive bidder with a total bid amount of $435,375. My motion is to approve.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay estimate number 2 for the jail roofing project, which I'm sure they're happy is no longer leaking on their control board. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of pay estimate number 2 to Olympic Roofing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, now we'll jump backwards and back to our Senior Services Director, Sharon Carter. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. So the first item was that at the last meeting, I talked about several staffing positions. One was the Goldendale clerical admin, 1 position, increasing that to a clerical admin 2. And there sounded like that was okay, but I don't know that there was a formal approval to proceed with the appropriate paperwork for that.
I don't know that there was a formal approval either. Did you have a budget impact number?
So
What the change would be, and is that grant, how much of it is grant and how much of it is?
well, both the admin positions in each of the offices, the admin costs are allocated to the different grants. So there is a mix of, just count and then to the different grants, depending on the percentage of time spent in those in our cost allocation plan. So that could vary.
But most of it,
Is
if I remember your
covered
budget
under-
correctly, most
Yeah.
of it is grant.
Correct.
CMAs, do we want to discuss this one before we move on? Anybody want to step out on whether they're okay with changing the clerical admin 1 to a clerical admin 2
For the Goldendale office.
for the
only.
Goldendale office?
I just want to double check that this went through HR and that HR is good with it by looking at the assigned duties and roles.
So in terms of going through HR, I don't know what that means.
Job description.
It is on the org chart as a clerical admin 1, and the request was to increase duties and that to go. Correct.
So if the org chart changes, I think Commissioner Anderson's saying it needs to go through the classification committee to make sure the workload is a 2. Is that what he's saying?
I can't hear the peanut gallery in the back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's Rob talking in the back. I'm trying to figure out where you're going with going through HR. Since the org chart is a clerical admin 1 and she's asking it to change to a clerical admin 2, I believe you're stating that because there's an org chart change, it would have to go through HR and go through the job reclassification committee to make sure that the job duties line up with the change. Is that what you're saying?
Isn't that how we usually do it?
Yes, it is, but I just wanted to make sure that's what you're saying. And I agree.
So I need to do a request to HR. for-
Go,
okay.
yep, to HR, and they have a process. So that we don't, I don't know what the word is in my head.
Overstep.
Well, it's not, we have the ability to overstep, but I think past boards just did it way too often and didn't double check to make sure the work had changed. So we've kind of come up with our own policy to make sure we have an intergroup, which you guys have sat on for job reclassification.
Yeah, I
for
have,
other
and I
things.
just, yeah, wasn't clear because I mean, it fits the clerical admin too, based on what the duties that I want that
Right.
person to do.
And
so
I
that's
don't-
where I wasn't clear in
right.
terms of.
I
what
don't
needed to
think,
do.
in my mind anyway, and I'm not on the job reclassification board, I don't find you're gonna find a lot of problems. But we do, if the policy is to go that direction, we need to go that direction for everybody, is I think what Commissioner Anderson said.
It could be done fairly quickly if it's just a review.
Okay.
It will determine whether it needs to go to class.
Okay,
But it will be an org chart change, so we'll have to bring you that.
Okay,
okay,
So it's just a week or two.
okay.
It's just protocol for us.
okay.
Otherwise, everybody.
Well, that's
Yeah,
just it.
well, and
Otherwise,
that's what
yeah.
I want to make sure to, in terms of future, is that, discuss with the board and then goes to HR, or should it go to HR usually
Well,
first? And then
and
board, or-
I actually appreciate the way you're doing it. And you're approaching us to see whether we're open to the idea before we get it thrown in our lap. So I appreciate the way you're doing it. Other
Okay.
people have went to HR and all of a sudden it's thrown in our lap and doesn't leave us with a whole lot of choice.
Okay.
So I commend you for doing it the way you're doing.
Okay, so that was on one. So then the other one that we were discussing was, it was both the driver position wage and then our dispatcher wage, or our title is transportation coordinator. And I had, wage comparisons from kind of our immediate transit area, which was Skamania, Wasco, and Hood River counties. And it was brought up that those are not the counties that Klickitat County compares itself to, that there are 10 others to find out. So I asked Rob, what those counties were. He gave the list. And then Norma Pickett, my operations manager, contacted the different counties and these are starting wages. There's a couple that gives a range. We did for both driver and dispatcher, and these are for transit that is comparable to us as well. The only one, San Juan, did not respond, and apparently they only do seasonal transport out there. And then in terms of the average in yellow, we excluded Douglas and Jefferson because they hire CDL only drivers, and our drivers are non-CDL at this time still for the vehicle size that we do. So we only compared to the non-CDL wage for the other areas. So if we look at the average for all of the counties that are typically included, that puts the average about $19.57 an hour. If I add in Hood River and Wasco also to that, it actually brings it down to like $19.52 an hour. And then for dispatchers, it would be, the average is $23 an hour. And then if we brought in Hood River and Wasco, it actually brings it down a little bit to $22.85. So in terms of, even running projections, because this is a pretty big gap, because our current starting wage is $16.81. Even with a 4% COLA, which was slated for January of 67 cents, that puts us at $17.48, which still runs over $2 an hour under what the average is for all the comparable counties.
What is the number? Hang on, I'm thinking. Okay, so the data you have here is not taking into account 2024 COLAs for these counties.
Correct, because the number of those mentioned 7% COLAs going in, so it was gonna, yeah.
No, what was the number
We
we
did-
adjusted our salary study on, and we bumped everybody up that was under 90% of average, right? And 90% of average, if we use the 1957 number, 90% of average is 1756 before a 2024 COLA. Just so everybody is aware of consistency. I guess I'll start with the discussion. I am very easily persuaded to adjust it to the 1756, which is 90% of average, which is what we bumped everybody that was below up to. And then add 2024 COLA on top of 1756. But I'm open to discussions.
So my concern's not with, I just saw the data same time you did. And Sharon has brought this up a number of times, so I don't have any issue with that. My question is, are you going to allow all the directors and elected officials to do their own salary surveys for an individual position? There's many positions that weren't done in the salary survey because we couldn't get the data. And so as a separate issue.
You have to go to that mic or stretch that mic or something.
Yeah, and I would say
cut
too,
out
I'm
again.
not just going out and doing that for like all my department for the sake of, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing it is because currently I'm having issues with recruitment. And then I also have a concern. I've got pretty much all my full-time drivers are going to be retiring in this upcoming year or two. And so what we're already seeing in the county with multiple positions, and part of what I feel like the board is that I have to look towards future planning in terms of, you know, managing my department is how am I going to be filling these positions when
Right.
we're going to be in a crisis situation and we've got contracts
I
and
think
grants that we're
HR's
committed
question
to.
is whether we
Yeah.
want all the departments to come forward with their own salary surveys.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would say that when we did our salary survey, we knew that a lot of employees' job titles did not fit in the salary survey, and we did not collect data for them. So we have no idea where they were or if they needed adjusted. And at that time, I told the directors that if they thought they had an employee or a job classification that was underpaid, to bring it up. And I think that's kind of what she's doing.
No, and like to separate the issue from what she's asking for, but it'll be chaos if all the departments and offices can do their own surveys or bring back. It's going to be chaos because everybody has people they feel like are underpaid and probably appropriately are not appropriately, but they probably feel that way appropriately because we have different positions and different departments and offices that are underpaid. And so on one hand, you don't want to punish the van drivers who are clearly underpaid. But on the other hand, I just think it's problematic, especially when we're going to budget issues in the future. So I don't know how to address it either, short of doing. And we talked about doing another survey this year and we put it off for a year because of the cost. So I just bring it to your attention. I'm not trying to derail Sharon's train or what she's trying to do. It's just
I understand where you're coming from there.
I do
And
too.
I would question the director to enlighten me that the majority of these funds that pay for these van drivers, is that county funds or is that grant funds?
Again, the bulk of it is grant funds because the county is doing a match portion. We have different contract revenue from different sources, our different, Medicaid, senior transportation contracts
That are
and that
grant
too, that
matching.
leverage also. And then there is county cash that matches. So I can't say there's no county
right,
involved because it's all based on a match percentage too that we have for the different types of transportation services. What I would say though too is I've been pretty vocal and angry oftentimes in the past about even the rate that folks in my department, drivers in my department, were getting paid when we were bringing high school student interns
Mhm.
on at their rate. And then was asked, well, why don't I use interns? Well, I can't, justify people that have to have a higher skill set.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling and I have to meet requirements to be able to provide the service. And it's going to get worse because again, I have people retiring too. So.
And I was not a commissioner when they were doing interns at the interns were actually making more than the van drivers. But I remember the conversation. And I am always going to side with the employee, and I'm always going to side with the employee getting a fair wage. If that means that there's only so much funds to go around and there's one less employee, but the rest of them are making a fair wage, then that's where I'm going to go. It's up to the board. And
Well, and just so that I'm clear, the drivers were not included in the salary survey then.
All positions were, just may not have enough data to cover.
Okay, and I have to
he
say,
said, sorry,
I
for everybody
understand.
online, HR said all positions were included in the salary survey. It's just some of them we didn't get enough data.
and I appreciate Sharon bringing the data. I don't question that at all. I think that's what I like to see from directors, is to give me enough data to make decisions with. So I appreciate you bringing that data. And I see how that's your driving force with this too.
If I may, I've got to leave here in a minute, so I just wanted to say thank you to Sharon for your proactiveness and looking ahead at this. My recommendation would be to have Sharon work with HR to come up with a recommendation, just like we would in everything else. It's not a classification, reclassification, but still it is finding, and we weren't trying to get people to 90%. I think we were trying to take the people that were below 90% and get them up to average was the goal. And so I would ask that Sharon work with HR to come forward with a recommendation for the BoCC.
I agree.
I agree.
With that, I've got to step out. Thank you, seatmates. Good luck and Godspeed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And thank you to Sharon, and thank you to Director Van Cleve as well.
And just to clarify too, it would also be the dispatcher position, which is the one that really coordinates the drivers and the schedules, and that one's been under also. So if
Right.
that's something too, then I need to get with Rob to look at
Yep.
how you calculate that based on
Mm-hmm.
the average from the comparable counties.
Like I said, I'm in favor of
Okay.
looking at both of them, but I'm also a very fair and equitable across the board. What we did for somebody else is what we're doing here. Even if I fought for more, if I didn't get it and we only got the 90%, that's what I want to do for everybody. So that's how I will be doing my math anyway, is what's 90% of 1782 average, and then add COLA to that.
Yeah, and then if we can figure out, what that figure is going to be with the different steps with existing staff, I can, run numbers within the budget to look at what that overall cost is going to be. There's such a range here to try and, I'm going to do 30 different scenarios and then say, well, no, we're not doing any of that. Quite frankly, I want to.
Well, and that's why I appreciate you bringing this forward first, because the staff time is important. And if the answer is a no, I want you to know it's a no before you waste 40 hours of your time working on it. So it's either for the other directors listening, before you spend a lot of time, come make sure that the board is at least receptive. And then we'll send you down the right course to work on it. So I think that's consensus from the board to work with HR and come back with.
Yeah, and I don't know that anybody's in that lowest classification outside of my department anyway, in terms of how many that might affect other than interns. So thank you.
Two problems down. Next one. Is there another one? Oh,
That was
it.
it. That was
Those are the
that.
two
So this
things?
was our follow-up. Yeah.
Okay.
This was. Okay, so I'll get with Rob and go from there.
What is, I mean, you said your van drivers are retiring. I would imagine half of them are probably already retired. They're just working in their retirement.
Well, our casual, our casual drivers tend to be people that have retired or retired from the county even and have come and work for us too for extra hours. So we have a lot of retired folks that do the casual positions because those are not set hours. But with our full-time drivers, I would say we're looking in 1 and 2 years, a number of them have been talking about retiring.
So that's a
Completely.
full-time job then for them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, full-time, full benefits and that too. And that was, the comparisons with the other counties was making sure to ask about the benefits because historically, some of the things that you would compare, but the benefits are very comparable and that too. So that's not something that we could sell as, oh yes, well, the benefits are way better. So.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the info.
We have
See this
10
morning.
minutes.
Yeah. See, and this is that part of,
Fill the gap.
we're gonna have to figure out our timing because this whole thing changed.
Mhm.
So, or
Get there.
be able to, well, in times like this or that free time that we could talk about SEPA,
Mhm.
so having these little 10 minutes in there, give us some thought process to talk. So let's talk about SEPA, if you don't mind. Big project SEPA anyway. I mean, it kind of sounds like we're on the same page. That to reduce liability, we need a professional
Mhm.
to do big project SEPA stuff. The question is going to lie. That's more than likely in my mind a consulting firm. The question would be what consulting firm? We have one already on, let's call it retainer. But it doesn't necessarily mean we need to use that one.
Correct.
And with the legal opinion that I saw that you put in, it doesn't look like we have to go to all the hoops and whistles and all that kind of stuff to
Just
get one. So if we
qualifications is
had,
what's important. Mhm.
if the board either reached out to one that we thought was of our mindset, which I don't necessarily know of any. I've been given a name by one of the projects, but I don't know whether we, like I told them, that doesn't seem like it's smart. But I'm open. I'm wide open.
And I do have a couple of names maybe that I've reached out to that we're interested in.
So it doesn't sound like, based on the legal opinion, we need to go to RFQ or a request for qualifications.
Right.
We could,
Mhm.
if we so chose.
But I think picking a firm, you're gonna be able to research what their qualifications are and interview them and visit it and know what they've worked on.
So that could be something the board chooses to do. If you want to do that, is maybe interview.
Okay.
I mean, this is just an idea. Maybe we can schedule each of them for 15 minutes,
Okay.
half hour or something on a schedule, and tell them what we're looking for. See if they feel comfortable. Also be able to, communicate back and forth, and then hopefully we can just pick one.
And we have a little bit of time with that 2-month cushion now to, get them on the schedule, get them in, visit with them, talk about them. And so it's not like we're in a,
Well, there's a little time, but the projects are,
they're there.
they're
Yeah.
freaking out.
Okay.
So the sooner rather than later, because it's the same thing with us. When we have a road project, Courtney Road, that it gets backlogged for 6 months or whatever, that just drives the prices up.
Do you have room on the schedule next week that we could set aside a time slot for consulting firms to come in and then
we
reach
can-
out
We
and,
can make it. So
Mhm.
that's, if you can,
and
if
let
you
me,
can-
let me know what time it would be so I could tell them if they're interested.
yeah, if you can work with her and work with them and get, even if one of them next week and one of them the following week.
Okay.
It's just something I would like to hurry up
Yeah,
and get done. And then in the meantime, we can reach out to the prosecutor's office and tell them that we're looking at a consulting firm to do the SEPAs.
okay,
And what language does he recommend the code get shifted to or changed to allow us to have the consulting firm also do SEPAs?
okay,
And we can work on that in the next week or two, and then hopefully have this thing buttoned up
okay.
by the end of the month.
So change code, what would that look like? If we have to, what would it look like?
Right, for a consultant.
Okay,
Like I said, I would prefer wordage that just said, as, you know, the SEPA official is delegated by the BoCC as they feel appropriate.
Yeah.
So that it could, it's open for the next board. They don't have to jump through this again. But if he's not willing to that and it needs to be a consultant or something, fine, let's just change it and move on.
okay,
Because that's gonna take a week or two to do too, so we can do that if we know we're going with a consultant, which it sounds like we do. We can get the wordage
That's our
changed as we're
quickest.
looking. I think that's the only way we don't get sued.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of money and I don't wanna pay it in suits and or restarting all over again,
Right.
you know, because then a hearings examiner kicks it back because you didn't do it right and now you gotta do it all over again. And we're finding that with the CAO, you know, over and over and over again, it's costing us a fortune.
Yep.
So I think that's the correct way to go.
Do you think you could write for?
I'm not big, 15 minutes a piece.
mhm. Um,
How much time do we have? Half hour or? Okay,
We've got, well, depending on.
Yeah.
of course, public comment.
would we have any time just before lunch?
So Human Resources has a department update at 10:30,
Okay,
so
how long is your department update for next week? 10:30.
short.
We probably do.
so 11:30 provides plenty.
That would give
So,
them travel time.
It sounds like you have between 9:30 and 10, so you can either do 9:30, 9:45, or 11:15.
I would
Those are your
like to
four
do 11,
times.
11:15.
If that works, that works.
Yeah, I would like to give them travel time because they're not gonna be local. And also that's
They can zoom
lunch.
in, let them zoom.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so which would you prefer?
I don't care.
Thank you, sir.
I would give them all 4 times in case they have a
Okay.
staff meeting or something, so. Well, she needs to call them, but they can either choose 9:30, 9:45, 11, or 11:15.
We were told to save money, was your turn.
And they don't have to be back to back. One can be in that 9:30 slot, the other one can be in the 11 slot, whichever one of those
That make
times
your
works for
calendar a
everybody.
mess? Did that make a mess? Okay. Then
As
I'll-
long as you have an answer for
Could be a little colder.
Yes,
before the next couple of days, so she can slot in
Yes.
whatever.
the names, and what time.
Yeah.
I'll plug it in for you.
Perfect.
We're saving money.
Most of the employees don't know. I was downstairs and they were complaining about it and I'm like, eh. Then again, my own office was complaining about it for a little while. Of a bake sale. Don't do that, I'll go broke.
You said, let's save money. Look at us.
Look at us. Well, I appreciate you saving money, sir. All righty, we will end that discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Zoller, for
Yeah.
the fruitful discussion. And we'll move on to department update, which is Public Works, Director Jeff Hunter and County Engineer Sarsaparilla. And I will let you know that we already paid pay estimate number 2 for the jail roof project.
You also did the consent agenda, so
Right.
I didn't hear that anything got pulled, so we'll just move right into. We do have a bid opening today at 1:30, I believe. Okay. And then we'll go right into the construction program.
See, so our white plastic edge lines project contractor's still waiting for a decent break in the weather in the freezing forecast, try to get out here and get that done. Curve warning signs and guideposts, still awaiting those materials to be delivered to the contractor, but we do have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for this week.
Is that the guardrail project over here too, or did we get that?
That's the next item
Got
here.
it.
So Small Works, they're starting on Dot Road tomorrow, and then Canyon, they're hoping to get started Thursday, getting that
Okay.
installation in.
That will be very nice if they get that done before winter.
Yeah. That's our plan. Road design, the Biggleton area paving project, as Jeff said, bids are due this afternoon and will be open this afternoon. Sundale Old Highway 8, we're just waiting for one more acquisition to be signed and we'll get things put together to get that out on ad. The bridge repair bundles project, we're in final stages of developing our RFP so we can get a firm on those designs so we can get those projects out. And the crushing project, bids are due next Tuesday, be open next Tuesday as well.
This is where it all comes around. All that rock we shipped over there, now we're having to recrush for it.
Yes.
Yes. And other preliminary work, we're starting these upcoming projects. Got it.
Okay, maintenance, east side, is working on the cattle pass. Still got a little more work to do on that. And, west side, we're brushing in the Snowden BZ area. This is kind of brushing time, doing some grading of some roads. We're putting base course on Rock Creek Road. It is not it's just our Spring Creek Road, sorry. Putting base course on that. It's not the greatest, but it's the classification of the road. We're fixing damaged guardrail on Old Highway 8 and Canyon Road. We have the ability to fix certain damage, but when you're driving in new post, we do not have a post driver. They're expensive and we don't use them very often, so we contract that out. On the facility side, the window glazing is scheduled in health to be done this week. And picnic table by the end of November, and then that fund is complete. That project is also complete. Jail roof replacement flashing was completed last week, and there's a couple punch list items that need to be done, and then that'll be done. Exhibit building installations on hold for the time being. Superior Court remodel, we're going to be working on the project scheduling with courts and everybody involved. Wish Ram Park improvements, concrete pad was poured last week. The events are the same that we have. We did get an email from our citizen that was really pleased with the Oregon Rally. We've heard a lot of positive things about the Oregon Rally. They will be back next year. Fuel Island, we're still working on that. Snow removal contracts, Small Works contract opens today in Public Works office. We have 2 for Goldendale and 0 for White Sand. So that could become problematic. We end up doing the plowing, but we're, in a bad year, we still get it done, but we try not to do that. Again, this is the reason we've kept a lot of the stuff in-house because we still get bids. And if we do get bids, they're expensive.
Have we ever, I know the white salmon one's been harder to get, but have we ever not had it recently?
No, we have not. We've always got it. Somebody comes in. We could still get somebody today. And then we make calls too. We'll go to that range and then I'll work with the road crew and see what their capacity is to do that, how we can figure that out.
But you wait for the bids to do the bid thing and then you reach out to the person that did it last year and say, why did you not bid?
Right, exactly. But if I remember correctly, Goldendale was right around 120, White Salmon was 180 an hour.
Yeah.
So it gets pretty expensive. Let's see, radio towers, everybody said it is online. There's a couple punch list items that need to be completed. Some other follow-up, we had some vandalism in Centerville, Horseshoe Bend Road, and some other places. The signs were literally just run over. And we also had some cones that we have on the edge of the road on Olson thrown into the creek. So we did have some vandalism over the weekend. We were working with the sheriff's office. Not that we have any hope to find anybody, but we're now reinstalling signs in Centerville. If you hear
Well, whose rig could take that?
I don't know. Somebody literally at the intersection just drove through the intersection, plowed over all the signs.
Well. Yeah. It's happened.
It has
actually.
happened in
It's-
the past.
It's that intersection even. in the
Yes.
past, so.
Well, and we've had this spirit periodically. We actually, a couple of years ago, we had people shooting our signs.
I was
They
gonna
thought
say,
that
how-
was a lot of fun.
It was deer hunting season.
Yeah, and they enjoyed it, but we don't have that. This time we literally just have them taking them out. So we got some people going up and our inspectors are reestablishing them. Let's see, we're getting ready to start on the airport RFP to get a consultant on to do the design work for that. We have closed the overlook at, on 97 that overlooks the Mary Hill Loops Road. We usually close at this time of the year anyway, or we always do, not this, just, we've always done that because we don't plow it. We don't want to plow it. And if we leave it open, people will get in there and either get stuck or they stop there and then they back into 97 and create a hazard. So we just shut the gate, lock the gate and move on. And then in the spring we'll reopen it again. Pioneer Center, and I didn't get a chance to catch up with Sharon. I will. We are receiving some complaints about heat. Yes, it's down a little bit. That's a savings, but Pioneer Center is not down. We have those units are now leaking. They are on this year to they're on next year to replace. So we're just kind of milking them, and so we will put something out to bid the first of the year, but they'll have to suffice the whole winter. And I got to talk to Sharon about that. They just don't heat as well anymore. They're past their prime and they're going away. We are in a process of replacing all those units. We've gotten quite a few. We still have a few left to do. And that just happens to be the one of them that's actually leaking, and it leaks. If you push it too hard, it will leak even more, and then it leaks down into the health department. Because the units aren't directly over wherever they service, but just to kind of give you the heads up, and I will talk to Sharon when I get a chance. That's all I have. I think that's all we have, is it? Okay.
Okay, the one thing I didn't hear is to finish up the loan on this building and whatnot. You mentioned the picnic table, which thank you. We're still missing 3 pictures.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we gotta get that, and I will, my person's back from vacation, not that I had actually forgot to remind her, so that's on me. So I will talk to her when I get back, and we will reach out to the person, and the person, they know what pictures you picked out. Okay, we'll reach out to her then.
And then the last thing I have is you submitted the landfill gas grant application, and we, to the best of my knowledge, have not heard from the BUD about scheduling a meeting this year. Not a surprise to me. How does that normally go? Do you reach out to try to schedule a meeting, or does our staff reach out to try to schedule a meeting? Okay, thank you.
We
very
do the
much.
application, and then it's yours because it's board to board.
Then I would ask staff to reach out to the PUD to schedule a landfill gas grant application meeting between their designee and ours, which will be fun, but I can't wait.
And I hope you're listening online for good comments today.
I heard that there were some, and we appreciate that. It was a long time coming. And we've been working on SADIS for 3 or 4 years. Public Works has. I started it before Miller and even got here. It evolved, but it is a good site. I know Commissioner Solar got to go up there, and it's a nice facility. And it has, we talked to our guys in Rock Creek, and you can hear them in Rock Creek, some service we've never had before.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's very good.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for whatever board is sitting here when they have to all be upgraded.
I think we got some time.
We do.
We just put them in. Let's see.
I just know how much they cost now and how much they're gonna cost 20 years from now, so.
Well, the idea is not to put in, that's why we actually stick built the facility instead of putting in one of those shelters. Because the shelters have about a 20, 25, 30-year life. Stick built building is, it's on the basis of a house. It's gonna last a lot longer and they're the same, it was come out to be the same cost.
And you guys did a really good job about placement and figuring out how to save on hooking to electricity. And there was a lot of thought that went into every little step. And
Yeah, we moved it up to save cost. We kind of do that with all of our projects. We kind of we do what we call value engineering and look at the different things and ways we can save money.
Did you take any pictures up there that you can share with me?
I think Millerin did. I didn't take any. And I know Jeff King
Yeah,
had some
they did.
taken.
Maybe I'll reach out to Jeff.
If not, I can get some from, I think Rick had. I know Rick has pictures. We have pictures of during construction.
I don't need 500, but 2 would be
Right.
nice.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for these good fine people?
no,
No.
easy today.
Easy
Okay.
peasy.
Thank you.
No prep the snow
That's not in
plows.
trouble today.
Well, it's early.
I don't know, HR just showed up and is escorting you into the hall, so.
We'll be in and out for part of the morning. I made some commitments to a few people that are gonna speak that we can stay around.
Lucky us. All right, thank you, sir.
Same thing, I'll be back with a pop here.
All right. And we are again 15 minutes ahead.
Wow, we're doing good.
Yeah, I just,
So.
Public Works is probably one of those that we can just cut to 15 if they happen to run over. They happen to run over, but most of the time, it's 15 or 20, maybe 20 tops.
Now we're going into a quieter season too.
While in their updates
Not as busy.
historically,
Mhm.
for the last year and a half have been 10 minutes, maybe 15. If there's a ton of questions, it goes to 20. So I'm fine with 15, I'm fine with 20, but the half hour is just gonna cause us to
Yeah.
find another 10 minutes of something to talk about.
So I went to a Wasatch conference last week. Planning 101.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was all about the comp plans and it was really, really interesting and they did videotape it. They have some slide presentations out, but when they get the video part out, I'll share with you.
Okay.
There's some really specific ones that I think relate to our county that are going to be very valuable. And it was very interesting to see other planners and how they relate with their county, how they will all work together, how they run planning integrated with everything, including finance in the county.
I
Very
would
interesting.
picture 95% of attendance was planners. How many, did you recognize any commissioners in the room?
Oh, yeah, there were commissioners, planners, trying to think, it was a very
Broad
very
mix,
group.
okay.
Yeah, it was. It was really interesting who was interested in how it was functioning. And Department of Commerce was there, of course. And yeah, some subjects really related to us, other not so much.
Right.
So there were some.
A lot of
sometimes
Growth
about-
Management Act.
Yeah, some climate change things and yeah, just relationship things. It was, everybody is trying to steal the good planners.
The what?
The good planners.
All right, yeah.
The counties that are really solid with planners that spoke and they were recognized right away of, oh, would you like to come to work for us? That came up quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah. So,
That's what we're gonna find.
yeah. And not so much that, I was really impressed with their commitment to their counties. They really, Lewis County, actually, their county commissioners meet 3 times a week. And their planner is in that seat, all 3 meetings, throughout the whole meeting. She sits with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very different relationship, I found,
I just,
than what we've had,
if
so.
the planner is in the BoCC meetings 3 times a week, what the hell he or she find time to do?
It's interesting what they do for their jobs as a planner, and they had descriptions about, we've looked at it very differently, but they had a lot of advice and a lot of, you'll see it on the videos that I share with you. About advice for how your planner functions and what you use them for.
Interesting.
Yeah, they said it's very, very heavy, not so much on the education because a lot of those things can be learned in your seat, but very, very heavily on how you relate to the public.
I would agree with that. Yeah, no, send me the video and then, I'm gonna assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that Richard sent the KC BoCC video to you. If not, it's on the calendar.
Okay.
You can click, it's about an hour and 45 minutes.
I'll watch KC BoCC.
Yep, the two main parts of it were the two asks, one of them from the Centerville Grange and the other one from the Port District.
Okay.
So those two things will eventually come before us, along with his budget ask that I'm assuming we'll get more into when we get here, but
Okay.
I would watch it enough to educate yourself on the port project so that we can have discussions when that gets here.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. We are again way early, so any opposition to having Lori, since she's in the room, come forward so we can
No, let's
not make
go.
her wait around? All right, please come forward. Our new verbal interim planning director for whatever that was, skirt plats, boundary line adjustments, and floodplain certification.
So I had this on, you guys on in the background as I was working on this.
And your name came up.
Yeah, well, yes, I heard that a few times.
Yeah.
So some of what I may have here may not apply, or you may have already done.
Okay.
But we can discuss it more or whatever your heart's desire. So late last week, I was advised that at least Commissioner Zoller, you wanted some more information on the watershed group, and now they're actually DCG Watershed. So I did do some research, and going back, we have an original contract that was signed in April of 2020. And there was a clause, and I included that in this short packet. I don't have their entire contract with me, but I can certainly get that to you. But there was a clause that if additional projects are assigned beyond the SMP and CAO, which is the shoreline plan and the critical areas update, such projects would be performed based on a watershed billing hourly rate. So I did find out that much.
Okay.
And I know that was something you're very interested in. And I did talk to Dan Nichols, and he again assured me their company does do that for a lot of municipalities and counties. So along with doing that, of course, would come some additional costs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was told I should be prepared to talk about budget kind of and where we are with our professional services, and that's on page 3 of this little packet that I gave you. And we have, bottom line, we have overspent in our professional services. And just like to give a shout out, we got Jen and Rob here to help me because they're definitely more the budget people than I am. Oh, okay. And again, I'm definitely not the master of budgeting, but I believe even though we've overspent in professional services, we were able to still pay the bills because we had additional funds in other categories. And I'm sure there's a bigger, more proper wording on that, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong. And then.
Do you know why? I mean, the estimate from Watershed was, XYZ dollars, and it's obviously more than that. Is that because of when they presented it, it comes to the planning commission and the planning commission wants changes, it goes back, and then is that the reason why, or am I wrong? Or do you know?
I think, did you have your kind of pointing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna add in whenever we'll have a conversation. You can answer Dan if you'd like.
Okay, I don't know finer details exactly, But I believe with so many planning commission workshops on both the shoreline program update and then back with the critical areas and stuff, I think we use them more than anticipated.
Well, and I noticed the grant funding in the other sheet you provided us before covers their stuff, but it doesn't cover the local area stuff.
Correct.
So as many planning commission meetings we have, those aren't covered in the grant. And that's where I'm saying, I think is what it's.
Well, where my concern come in is, I was on planning commission for 10 years. So I did work with Dan at one time when planning commission ramped back up after it was down for a while. And he was coming in, working on the critical area and the shoreline management plan. And so I followed those efforts, and I also asked the planner questions during that time. And it was brought to planning commission in the last year that we needed to get done with these issues because this was funded by ecology, specifically funded by ecology for this work to get these two items done. And she had concerns at that time that they needed to have extra meetings get done because in June his funding ran out. And so they did complete that project and finish in June to get it filed, that they had that ordinance and it done. During that time too, it also came forward, there was a suit for an appeal for the SEPA portion of that ordinance. Planning Commission was doing their work, but yet the SEPA portion was done and it was appealed. So it's held in an appeal status right now. We're working through that. So I don't know what the work was done after that time when the critical area ordinance was done. I don't know what work continued in July after the Department of Ecology funding was done. And I did ask Mr. Nichols when he was here last week that his grant had ended, and I understood that. So how was he funded? And he stated that his company knew there were crucial items that he could go ahead and just kind of help out and then keep it moving. But then this new contract showed up after that question that I had.
So I'm confused a little bit. So you're saying that, and I'm not saying you're saying, the way I understand it is that Watershed had a grant to do the work and was supposed to be, their contract ran out or their funding ran out in June.
Correct.
But
and we had that
maybe they
conversation with
continued to work on their own accord without our approval.
I don't know what that work
Or
was.
for the other work that now they're just submitting a bill for.
Did he submit an invoice for that work, that line item, what that work was in July, so we would know?
I can get the documentation for these expenses.
Okay.
I did not bring all that down, but we certainly can get that.
Okay.
But I believe it was probably follow up with the Shoreline Master Program update that eventually the
Right.
Planning Commission made a recommendation, and now we have both the SEPA appeal on that. And critical areas, we have the workshop coming up November 21st or 20th.
And that, I have a concern about that workshop too, because he's not under contract with that workshop. And that workshop is an added cost that I talked to him about the other day when he was in. And for me, the problem with that workshop is it was presented that he was coming to update about the CAO because we have so many new members on Planning Commission, but looking back, we really don't. Those people worked on that critical area ordinance and prepared it for June to get it done. And the update then, if the appeal is not done and we go ahead and request that Planning Commission accept the ordinance as is and sign off to come to us, if that appeal ends up differently, we would have to go back in and change the ordinance. So it's kind of a cart before the horse thing for me, to have him work with them and ask them to do the final on that ordinance when the SEPA is still an appeal.
And I believe the plan was to hold off on the commissioners or somebody hearing the appeal until the Planning Commission made a recommendation.
Right, because I think the reasoning for that was so that we didn't have to go through 2 appeals and 2 hearings examiners, and they would go together if they were both appealed. I have a hand up, so.
The other side of this would be the financial side. Currently planning's operating budget will only have roughly $4,500 available budget to the end of the year. Their reoccurring expenses, for the next 3 months, she has listed on the back of that packet as $1,350. So now we're just down to a couple $1,000s.
I can't post the position with Prothman because we were going to take the money from the planning department. So I have a $5,000 bill that is due next week. I'm not sure they'll post the position without payment. And I mean, I could probably get some more time for that, but it's ultimately going to be about $8,000, of which we have no place to take the money. So
Now, that's the operating part of the budget. The salaries and wages is perfectly fine, has about $70,000 to $74,000 of extra budget in there because of that senior planner position that was budgeted. We, as a county, have had a policy to not, where directors are not allowed to request to transfer that money out of salaries down to operating expense. But at this point, she's not gonna be able to cut any AP checks without some sort of supplemental.
Well, that's kind of the kicker. I know we don't normally take from salaries down to, say, professional services, but I don't want to sit around on a Prothman contract for 3 months until we can get a supplemental either. So it sounds like the direction to go would be to do it in this case. Otherwise, we have to wait for the next supplemental to be able to throw money and to be able to actually do a Prothman or anything else.
Out of an emergency circumstances and maybe draft a resolution to override that internal policy. And
I wouldn't override it too many times, but I think in this case, we're kind of had options, and the next supplemental is in December. And then, I mean, we'd have to do it be year in before we could get.
Yeah, and then we kick the planning director down the road for 2 months, and I just don't want to do that.
I agree. I don't want to.
And there's other bills I'm sure they're going to incur that.
And what I tried to do on the back page, page 4 of this, was just our anticipated expenses coming up. Some of them are pretty simple, and now a majority of our planning commission members, especially, for example, on a workshop, may attend via Zoom or, phone instead of, not that we don't want them here in person, but every dollar counts. So travel reimbursement. And then, of course, we have, phone bills, copiers, and, things of that nature. So,
I had one other question we could back up.
Okay.
On the watershed company, they've had a change. And do you know if it's a change of title for their company, or has he separated from their company?
No, they've actually merged with DCG.
Okay.
From just
And
going through
added
their
it.
website and asking
Okay.
some very, very simple questions. It was a merger with more of a civil engineering
Okay.
side of,
Just curious.
2 companies coming together. But I certainly can't speak on behalf of.
No, that
Watershed,
answers it.
but-
That's good.
Just to make it clear and make sure we have consensus, do you have a problem with them using wages to move down and write a resolution for this emergency situation so they can use that funding?
Yes, I think in this case where we're hunting for a planner, it's crucial. And it's kind of using that towards what it needs to go towards. So I have no problem with that and keeping your department moving. Estimated costs, I'd like to stay within looking for the planner using that money and also keeping Lori's office moving. But as far as consultant fees, I think we should suspend that decision for a little while. until we get through this other portion of what we're working on. It's not crucial work. It doesn't have to be done right now. And that's $17,000 that can be used towards the office.
Well, I guess that's the question. Is that $17,000 from watershed? It sounds like part of it is already for services rendered.
I
Or
don't
is
think
that
so.
all-
That's
He
the new
explained
contract.
to me is that we're at a zero, or, they're not billing us right now. Other than him coming or virtually attending the planning commission workshop. And he was going to just do that.
So is that 17,000 for future work?
That would be for
Yes.
future if you were to sign a
There's
contract.
already 11,000 in the hole for that, to that
Correct,
contract.
correct.
So it'd be another 17 on top of that.
Correct.
And so you're saying that he was going to come to the planning commission meeting thing on his own dime and not bill us for it?
That is what he said, yes.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
And like I said, it's not crucial work. It's not something that planning commission needs to spend their time coming together for right now.
and possibly we don't have this planning commission workshop.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that there are other options how to cover these, but this is probably the best option, even though it's rare and you haven't done it since I've been here. Otherwise, we have to take it out of reserves or non-departmental and then do a supplemental anyway. A special supplemental or the fourth one, which we tend not to do unless we absolutely have to. So I just want you to know there are other options, but I think this is the best option, though it's a rare event.
Right. And for me, looking at where we're in the hole here on this second or third page for these charges, and then Lori's going to get us the idea of what work was done in July after the contract ended.
Yeah, that
That we're paying for.
$11,000, I'm gonna need to see an itemized bill. For
Yeah. And then I'm
to
not,
know if that was verbally authorized by somebody in the county. It may have been verbally authorized by
Yes.
the previous planning director. We
Right.
don't know. So if you could reach out to him and get a detailed billing of the 11,000 and ask him if he had authorization.
And I can definitely, even in the next half hour or so, get you copies of the invoices and that sort of information.
I guess. While I understand the CAO isn't pressing. The SMP appeal. Is on hold until we get done with the CAO that way, if it gets appealed, they both go get appealed together and that saves $25,000. By them being appealed separately.
okay.
I'm trying to figure out the negative of him coming and having a meeting if he's doing it on his own dime.
Well, I'd want some sort of assurance that that's what it is, a statement, an email, something saying that there'll be no charges if we're moving forward with that meeting. Until, especially since we have to find out what our hole is going backwards first.
Okay, when was that meeting scheduled again?
November 20th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. If he's willing to write you a letter that says he won't bill us for the October 20 or the November 20th meeting. If that could potentially wrap up that project so that whoever's gonna file an appeal can file an appeal and then they can both go get appealed together. That would save us 25 grand. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, so I want to ask some questions about that too. So if Lori can get us that documentation, we can take this up again next week.
Okay.
That would,
I can certainly get the documentation.
yeah.
Yeah, if you can get the dollar amount of what was billed. And some kind of a verbal that the county will be charged for November 20th, I think we can have more discussion next week.
I told Lori I would help her out and this is
Thank
kind of something we do all the time. So not planning, but they're all the same. So is your agreement expired? Or have you went above and beyond what your dollar figure is for your?
I believe we went above and beyond the dollar
You
figure and
have
I'm
to
not.
amend the agreement. That is an audit finding if you not, you
Okay.
circumvented the bid laws then. If you do not, you have to, you know, we bring you guys agreements all the time. We're amending everything because we're required like to do that.
Well, right, but that's our question is, did we overspend or did they overcharge?
Right, if they overcharged, but if you plan on doing more with this consultant, you have to
You'll
get
have
that
to do
in
the
place.
agreement.
You have to do it, you don't have to spend it, but you're right, if they overcharge, then that's an issue, because we have that. They do it to us all the time. We go, no, you can't go over this. And we tell them, this is your limit.
That's
period.
where we're at, is show me the email from the planning director or somebody who said, go ahead and go over your limit by $11,000. That's what I'm looking for.
In this case, we've already paid them.
The 11,000?
You're 11,000 in the hole. That's not a projection. You.
Right, but have we paid them for that 11,000 that they overspent?
I believe so. That's why you're in the hole.
Yes, or
Wow.
if you, on page 3, this is just from our planning department's own budget records.
So I'll need to see it because I was
So the
specifically
board-
told we only spent ecology money there. That was
That's
none of
same-
our money.
Same here.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, you're gonna still have to do an amendment to the contract.
Yep. So essentially this October 4th payment for 11,500 was what they overspent on the contract. And we don't know whether they got approval to overspend, but we've already paid. Is the answer that I'm,
So you need to, so Lori will need to prepare, and I can work with her.
Thank you.
A board packet to amend the contract to some figure at least to cover this.
right.
Because now if Mochi had signed the agreement, then she could amend the contract. But the board signs those agreements, so therefore the board has to amend. Just
Okay.
like I said, we bring them to you guys all the time.
Mhm.
It's the same situation.
But technically it should be amended before the 11,000 gets spent.
You are correct, yes. It should have been amended long before the.
Well, and that's my, I guess, problem. If people can spend money without the authority to spend that money, that's kind of
Typically,
an
that
issue for me.
doesn't happen. And I'm not gonna
That's an
throw
issue.
anybody under the
Correct.
bus. Typically, there is somebody that catches.
Well, and that's my question, I guess, is does Watershed have a email that somebody at the county gave them verbal approval to overspend by $11,000? Or did they just do it?
And then they approved the bill and sent it to you.
And we didn't know any better and we just paid it off.
Could be.
So it's like, I need to know the answer to that question. Because based on the answer to that question is whether I want to have any continued work with Watershed.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Just want to make sure I've assured Lori she's just presenting the information.
Yeah.
That's
No.
nothing.
I've been here.
Sorry, you're
Not
great.
in the fire.
We'll help
And,
Lori.
right, and definitely, and you two are more the budget people, but from what I understand, in 2023, we were allocated $80,000 for professional services and potentially that didn't meet the whole amount we were supposed to be paying them. You know, we have a lot of research to do, so certainly we'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
We'll help.
And I
Joyce,
do appreciate everyone's help.
I appreciate them helping you because last thing I want to do is make your life miserable in your role here. So
Might
bear
wanna
with all.
Check the DOE grant because I know it's specifically lined item for that work and they have a total dollar amount that they allot for it.
I know we did. We had the original grant and then ecology. We went back and said, it's kind of going to go over that. And ecology said, here's some more money.
Yeah.
So in
Did
the
we
same
approve
regard,
that?
there's a possibility that if we reach out to ecology, ecologist will reimburse us the $11,000. Granted, if that's for local area stuff, ecology hasn't paid for that yet. So, but I don't know. It's a little messy at this point.
Okay.
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 Oh,
Well, and yes, I do have a couple other things to mention, more lighter subjects. Towards the bottom, I had other mentions, budget concerns. I think we've kind of already talked about that. Vacation carryover. Yes, I am guilty. I'm going to need to carry over some extra vacation time. And possibly another employee would be just a few hours. My estimate right now, which I will take some time off before the end of the year, but I'm looking at least 90 hours that I have to carry over if I don't take time off. And then just a couple other things under Canvas and Bluebird Solar. We have no updates on that at this point. And I know you've already mentioned earlier, we have upcoming some short plats, boundary line adjustments that'll need to be filed. But I think we're finding a way to get that solved.
Yeah, so you probably heard, but you may have been walking in the meantime. We've decided that, yes, we're gonna have the resolution for you to sign all the smaller stuff. Should be signed next week, hopefully. We are working on is, so if like Bluebird calls you, or any of the bigger projects call you, it's our consensus, since Mr. Anderson isn't here, to look at an outside consulting firm to do bigger projects, SEPAs, and then we'll just build a bigger project for the consulting work. But we have to change the language of the code in order to get to do that, and we have to get an outside consulting firm that it doesn't sound like will be watershed. So that whole process might still take us a month, but
I
we're
think the
working on it.
RFP process will take a while
We don't
have
we got a
to.
legal opinion
Oh.
that we don't have to
because
do
it's
that.
professional services.
Yeah.
That's not architectural and
which is
blah, blah,
awesome.
blah. So.
And did
that
you
should
want me to
streamline.
approach that from a project by project basis? Add them as they come in? So say go out to a consultant and say, we have this one that we want you to look at, or just,
Yeah, I think
More
this
blanket.
board needs to send them the bigger projects and not have them just take it on their own accord,
Right.
what they're gonna
but I
do.
didn't,
So we're gonna make them responsible for doing the SEPA on Bluebird.
okay,
And if the
certain level blanket.
Juniper Canyon Wind Farm ever comes up or wants to repower or whatever, then we can send them that one. If we don't have anybody in the meantime, but the only big project thing SEPA right now that I know of is Bluebird, right?
Right. We have Bluebird, then we have, some short plats, a rezone application, a conditional use application, and those aren't major, big
Yeah,
projects.
Those are you doing the SEPA on, those are not outside consultant.
That would, yes, it would be
Okay.
local in the department.
She just mentioned she heard, but maybe didn't hear all of the discussion this morning. So the focus of her SEPA official activity for the next month will be basically signing these Mylars, getting things to the assessor's office, correct? And then anything above and beyond that, you were going to ask her to bring to your attention before she engages, if there's ever any question about whether she should do it or it should go to a consultant.
Yep, that's kind of my thought, but I would also say that your wordage of whatever that wordage is in the resolution, short plats, boundary lines and flood certifications. Make sure we didn't miss anything. I mean, if there's anything other than you can think of, Lori, that you would need to do the signing on, other than short plats, boundary lines and flood certificates, we need to put that in that resolution.
Okay, and I can definitely work with
Like,
everyone.
do we have to specifically state SEPA official for
Right.
those, or does that inherent in signing some of those other things? I don't know.
Well, citing the short plat subdivisions, that's within the short plat subdivision ordinance, separate from the SEPA environmental ordinance. So,
Right,
separate
but
from
in the
flood.
resolution, we have to make you the SEPA authority. Well, I guess we don't if it's the interim, it's under the ring code, yeah. The interim would handle that, yeah, okay. Good call.
So we'll get the right wording, and I'll get you a list of projects that are coming in.
Yeah, if there's any other big ones besides Bluebird, let us know, because that's, for now, if we interview companies.
that's what we talk about.
And if we do schedule that on the agenda, hopefully you're here to provide us guidance
Well, I have no big vacation plans or anything exciting.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You better do something.
Yeah, okay. Good enough for me. Any questions? Anything else? Anybody in the audience? No, no, and no, no. All right, we will get through this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well
thank
done,
you, Jeff.
everybody, and I appreciate everybody working well with everybody else to
Mhm.
help this department succeed.
Thank you.
Oh,
Just gonna stay back.
at some points, today or whenever, I'm gonna need more knowledge of your, CAO watershed. What you see going forward,
Okay,
on CAO with or without watershed, whatever, blah, blah,
okay.
blah. Yeah. 10:45. 10:45, look at that. Somehow we managed to catch up. Next item is Financial Steering Committee update by Treasurer Greg Gallagher, if he's ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, last week at the commission meeting, I was like, oh, I forgot to let them know that we needed to be on the agenda. So I'll put that on my to-do notes. So we'll be more timely. So we did not meet last Friday. We met the Friday before, so a week ago. We traditionally, or for the last little bit, have always just came in and given a brief update. So I wanted to do that and just update you where we were at and what we discussed. We did talk about one of the things on the agenda was the $1 million loan for the economic development.
As they walk in.
I was just gonna say they may be coming in. Economic development for the airport. There's some work that they're doing down there, and Richard has been working with you guys on doing a loan, and there's some paperwork. So we did discuss that at the meeting. I think we have a couple of things. I've been in communication with Richard and the city of the Dalles and trying to figure out all the pieces. This is not, we've done something similar to this before. We did it with the curb grant in 2014. I have not personally, this happened before I was the treasurer, but looking back at the history. So I think we have a bit of a roadmap. But we just have to kind of get all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed. So what we did the last time was we have a fund 305 already set up. I believe it's 305 to handle some airport things on the capital side. We need to work with the finance director at the city of the Dalles and figure out how the paperwork. We also have an interlocal agreement with the city of the Dalles. Because essentially when we take that loan out, we run it through Fund 201, which is the debt service fund. So like right now on the curb loan that we're paying, you'll see it in the budget. We get the payment from the city of the Dalles and then we remit that on to the state for their portion. So the county's not paying it. It's just a pass through kind of thing. But since we had to be that entity. So I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions per se and how exactly this is all going to play out. But I think we're learning more and more. I think the key thing is the city of the Dalles was going through an audit for their last year's stuff. So when I talked to Angie, we were going to try to connect next week or the week after, maybe have a meeting and get the key people in play, maybe have her come up and figure out exactly how the accounting would go for this. So I think there's some pieces, a couple of thoughts on the resolution. I'll just kind of go through them. I think we need to make sure that we include all the financing. So currently right now, the way I understand it, and there might be more or less, there's this $1 million CARB loan, there is $700,000 of $09 or potential, and there's $2.8 million of an EDA grant type situation. So I think we need to add the potential 09 part in there. In here, it's authorizing the interim director of economic development to sign the agreement. It is debt. Typically the board on debt would sign the contract. I mean, it would just come before the board for signature, but that was just something that was brought up. Again, these are things you guys have control over to do how you want. These are just comments. 305.
But it's a good catch, and I appreciate that catch.
Yeah, it just is something that we saw when we went through there. And especially as we're bonding and not bonding, but committing the county to money. But other than that, I think we think it's all good. We just want to get that other document over to the city of the Dalles. Obviously, once we signed this, we haven't drawn any money on it yet. So we wouldn't, I mean, if let's say we signed it and we never did anything, I'm assuming we wouldn't have to pay anything back because it's a reimbursable thing. So but before we do draw money, I think we need to get the agreement set up with the city of the Dalles so we get the money coming back to be able to pay the other way. And I mean, again, we're a 50% owner in the airport, so part of it's on us. I mean, we're partners, 50-50 partners, to my understanding. Exactly. I've not dipped my toes in the airport.
We're 50-50 when it comes to them wanting our money. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so we did have a discussion on that. I think Richard's done a lot of pieces and parts and tried to get it up and working and get a lot of things going. And I think we're very close. I think his hope is to try to get it on next week's agenda to get approved by the board so that he can get it back, because I believe he had to file for an extension so we could get all of our ducks in a row. And I think don't quote me, and if Richard's back there, I think the 13th is the day, but I don't remember. It could be the 11th, but I think the next meeting will get us in line with that if we can get all that done. So we don't have a lot of time, but I think it was good for the finance group to get together and have that discussion. And those were some of the pieces that we had. And then we will continue to work on the accounting of this, and as we go through before the project starts and so on and so forth, and include Public Works, City of the Dalles, auditor's office, so on and so forth. Any questions on that part of the meeting? The next thing I did bring up to the committee was that I'm working with Umpqua Bank to sign a contract, or to get a contract in place that I'll bring to the board, because banking fees are obviously changing, and it would be nice to get an agreement so that we would know that we're locked in at an amount. So right now, our banking fees, we did, as you're all aware, we converted or consolidated things into Umpqua Bank from being in two banks. That's working very, very well. We did that in April or May. We kind of have a pretty good feeling now of how things are working. And so we're going to go through and try to, and there's recently Umpqua Bank just secured Walla Walla County, I know for sure. I think 2 other counties had moved over to Umpqua Bank. So I think they have 7 of the 39, which actually, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, they're up there and having most agreements with them. So anyway, we have their agreements to look at, and we're going to pursue that. So that's something hopefully we'll be able to bring, and that will help us with just making sure our costs are as where they can be. And we don't all of a sudden somebody goes, oh, hey, we're going to raise costs, and we're then impacted by the market or wherever. So more to come on that. That's just kind of getting everybody in that mindset. We did talk about the landfill payment receipt, not in any great detail other than we receipted more money in 23 than we had, because we did this payment that we got was the final payment for the current budget year. So I want to say it was 423,000 that we receipted above and beyond, and we receipted that back into Fund 125. So we didn't put that into the general, it just went into a general reserve area for now. If the board would like to choose to do something different with that, I talked to Jen, we talked about kind of where to put it at and came to an agreement so we could get the money receipted in.
So total monies are in for landfill in 2023. Do you have the total number?
I do not have that with me. I apologize for that. I could send that to you though. I didn't print that out.
Well, Jen's nodding her head. She'll probably get it for me. You have better things to do.
Yeah, well, and that's fine. I do. I just didn't print it. That's one thing. I have a lot of paper with me, but not that document. So
I'm trying to compare it to my estimate to see
Yeah.
how close I
nope,
was.
that's fine. And I probably should have brought it. I just didn't even think about it. I just wanted the board to know what we did with, typically, we never go over. Actually, I should say, I don't know that we've gone over, since I've been doing this in 2015. So, we usually figure out what we want to go short on. So this was kind of a unique situation. So, and usually when we go short on the general fund. So I just wanted the board to be aware that that money went into the 125 fund. And I know that Jen and I had talked about using some for different situations, and I think she's aware of that, but I wanted everybody to be aware of where that money is sitting. We talked about just some things that we are working on cleaning up that, just with time and everything, we're continuing to work on moving 138 money into 145, and we have a goal of trying to get that into the November 30th month end. That's the mental health money, and we'd already discussed that. We just haven't finalized that. So that we want to try to finish up by November 30, as well as moving some things around on 506 and 402, which are two funds that we've gotten rid of financially when we report them to the state auditor. So we're just trying to make sure our financials are reflecting how we're matched, with everything. So we have those pieces that we're working on. We talked about the, let's see. We talked about budgeting, where we had gotten to with the budget, and some of the pieces and the challenges and the ideas. And I think Jen actually has went through most of any part of that we had discussed. Other than that, that was really about the end of it that we talked about. We had no real other items that didn't get pushed out to the next meeting. The next meeting will be November 17th. I did send that out. We do need to make sure that Mr. Christopher is available on that day. So if you're not, let me know and I'll reschedule it. But we did set it for that day, and I did already send out the invite. So those are the things that we talked about. I just wanted to, and the other thing that we did talk about was doing a close and roll on our financial statements. So we were working on trying to do that for 2022, which we actually accomplished.
November 17th,
Mm-hmm.
County Leaders Conference in Spokane.
Okay. Well, we will work on finding another day. So yes, that was the tentative. So we'll come up with something different, and I'll communicate with you after this, and we'll figure out a date that will work for Heather and you and I. Any questions?
No, I don't have any.
That's good. No.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. You guys
Thank
have a
you
great day.
for the update, sir.
You bet.
We are way ahead of schedule now.
It's good. No.
No. We can just stay here for 10 minutes. and
Hand me
sign.
Jake's blue ink pen and I'll set up.
What?
A blue ink pen. I don't have a blue ink pen. I'll go steal Jake's for signing.
I do not have a pen.
People use our desks when we're not here.
And you guys
sometimes.
you should always have blue pens to sign.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
So-
Well, see, and I have this. This isn't mine. I don't
I
know.
always have,
It's been
interesting. I
here,
always too as a backup. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll have to put a box in here, a box of blue pens. There's
So
other boards that use our seats sometimes. Yeah, thank you. Hand sanitizer.
Goodies.
Got some.
Any ideas on how we're gonna seat and have this joint meeting with the city of Goldendale and have everybody available to get a mic? And there's a lot of people.
That's what I'm understanding.
I mean, I kind of thought about shoving 3 of them up here with us, where we can put a mic between us and one of them.
Yeah,
And-
let me just like be my microphone.
And just kind of tighten it up here, and then technically 3 of them or 4 of them can sit down at that table.
And are you gonna have, allow people to make comments?
Well, my goal is to just have it as kind of a town hall. Anybody that wants to speak wherever you want them
Yeah,
to speak.
You've got the mic.
But,
and we can, have a podium for people. So I'm gonna do my. We only use one at a time. I think I have to get that.
And that's a kicker. I don't know that I'm necessarily too active on having public comment. But agency comment, you know, if the sheriff's department wants to speak or walk out, I mean, it's roundtable for those entities, public health, you know, jail, whoever. Not necessarily Jim Johnson, you know, kind of scenario. But God, how do we give enough space for everybody without literally moving this thing downstairs? But it's at 4 o'clock. Technically, we can wrap up this up here and just recess at whatever, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whenever we're done. And then go downstairs for that 4 o'clock.
Because I know there's a few people that are wanting to.
I guess you would have to zoom down there.
Zoom down there. Or
Yeah, because we do the KC to zoom down there. But that way, at least everybody can sit around the table and feel equals.
Yeah.
And not like we're kings on a pedestal up here and they're sitting in the bleachers. So we might need to figure out how to facilitate that and or make sure there's an IT person here that day that can help us get Zoom up and running at 4 o'clock.
What day is that?
I don't remember, we're December 4th, I think.
Okay, it's, wow, yeah, we have time.
Whatever that Tuesday is.
Tuesday is the 7th.
So December 7th.
No, hang on. That would be, that's November.
It's Pearl Harbor Day.
December 5th. Sorry.
So that's what I would do. I mean, I want to make sure everybody's got an equal seat at the table. And even that, I don't know if there's enough chairs down there without breaking out the closets and the chairs. I know they got stacks down there because the whole plan is that whole glass wall opens up, so all those seats can sit out in the lobby. I'm just saying if WAGAP brings 12 people, you know, kind of scenario. Their executive director and, you know, whatever, a couple of people can sit at the round table, but everybody else needs to. So yeah, I think it's a better idea to be down there than up here. It also gets a little separation. Injury.
So shall we call it a town hall meeting?
I would. A joint entity town hall meeting or something, because it ain't our meeting. It's, I mean, technically it is, but it's just as much the city council. So yeah, joint operational town hall. Oh, and for all you on Zoom land, we have wrapped up what's on our agenda for this morning, but we're gonna stay in open session and sign documents. And that way, if either of the board members think of things and they want to talk about them, they can. And you're all more than welcome to hang out and
Talk about an agenda. Can I ask?
you guys speak into your mic.
So we had a request today for payment for Aspect Consulting contract for water right transfers in relation to the conduit dam water rights.
Right.
I'd like to have an update from the prosecuting attorney's office or from Aspect Consulting, letting us know what work they're doing and how it's processed and what all happens with that. It's just an interesting subject to me and probably to some people from the public.
I can give you a bit of an update.
Oh, there's somebody. Sir, it's not citizen comment right now.
You're out of there.
Go ahead.
So, what on the consent agenda that we agreed to was actually a reduction in the estimated price for processing of those water rights. The PA, Rebecca and I have had a meeting, with the attorney, and, it looks like it's not gonna be as much work, as originally thought about what needed to happen. Because we already own the water right, it's been transferred to the county. What we have to do is within the next year, we have to do something with the water right. Because it'll be coming out of the trust program. So we need to either put it into a bank or create a bank, which honestly doesn't look like that's what the direction we'd be going. But more likely, we'd be retaining it in trust for another finite amount of time so that we can continue to retain ownership of that water right without the use it or lose it clause kicking in. And so that's kind of the direction where we're going. We
So
don't have
to bank it. We could just hold it in trust for the next 10 years until this
Ecology
board or
will
the
hold
next
it.
board can
Mm.
decide
Yes.
what they're gonna do with it.
Yes. So some of the question is there was a lot of math done about the consumptive portion of the water right. Ecology is not putting it in stone and writing that we do have that ownership of that consumptive portion. And so that's part of the discussion as well. But we do own the water right. We have access to that in-stream amount of flow. And then there was a consumptive portion of the water right that was consumptive to the river through the Penstock area. So I mean, there is work there, and I'm really happy that it is a reduction in cost for looking at that from the attorney. So this was a good thing for the consent agenda.
Right, and I agree. I'm glad that the cost was less.
That fancy number. Case pita meals went down to $50 for 400.
I'm sorry, Jake. Yeah, I would be a fan of having an update about all of that. So I'm educated and I understand it. Even if ecology comes in or somebody and explains that all to us, I'm very interested in it. So, and I know you work hard on that and you understand it, but we are a board of 3 and I'd like to be included in those conversations.
Right. And right now, I believe the attorney is doing more research, and I'm sure when she gets done with that research, she would absolutely be willing to give us an update on what her recommendations are.
Perfect.
But,
Yeah,
but it is good news that we don't have to still worry about changing the ownership on that transfer. So
right. And education's always good going forward.
yes, you bet.
Thank you.
Yep. Was there anything discussed that I need caught up on? I'm almost to the marina here for the tour, but I've got a couple minutes.
No, we were actually just signing paperwork and killing time, but this could be a decent time to potentially do executive session on contracts. But I mean, if you're gone, you're gone. But you know, me and Lori got to kill some time this morning or this afternoon, so we might do that this morning anyway.
Yeah, we can do it right now.
Okay.
The only question is calling you. We would have to do it from the landline here and hope it works.
Yes. So just give me a call from the landline when you guys shut Zoom down.
Staff, I'm assuming, has your phone number.
I believe so.
Okay.
His cell phone, it's his work cell phone.
Work cell, Jake?
Yes, please.
Okay.
With that, do you have anything else for open session that we can do this morning, or do we? All right.
I don't.
I have to. With that, it is 11:18. We are going to go into an executive session. In a, huh?
11:08.
11:08. 11:08. We're gonna go into executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110. Pren D to review negotiations of a performance of a publicly bid contract when public knowledge would render such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs. We will go for 15 minutes. By the time everybody leaves the room, it will be 11:10 and we will be back at 11:25. So thank you, everybody on Zoom land. Tune in for this afternoon at 1 o'clock.